Every year, America's heartland unleashes 150 million tons of corn and soybeans onto the world, feeding megafarms in China, fueling Mexico's food supply, and securing Japan's high-tech kitchens. But what if a single rail delay or a river choke could freeze billions in exports overnight? This is the real export game, where split-second decisions on a Midwest farm ripple across global power and hunger. So, how does a kernel's journey begin? In the Midwest, harvest begins at sunrise with GPS-guided combines sweeping across fields that stretch for hundreds of acres. Nearly 80% of corn and soybean acreage here now relies on precision technology, letting farmers map every bushel as it's cut. Decisions happen in real time, whether to store grain on the farm or haul it straight to the local elevator. On-farm bins can hold only so much. With record harvests, more than half the crop moves off the farm within days. At the elevator, managers juggle contracts and storage space, tracking incoming loads by the minute. They watch market prices and rail schedules, deciding which grain to sell now and which to hold. Each truckload becomes part of a much larger batch, sorted and blended for quality, then queued for the next leg, waiting for enough volume to fill a 100-car train or a string of barges. Every choice from field to bin to elevator shapes the path of America's harvest long before a single kernel leaves the country. Unit trains stretch over a mile, each loaded with more than 100 covered hoppers and hauling up to 12,000 tons of grain. During peak harvest, railroads like BNSF and Union Pacific move as many as 7,000 cars a week out of the Midwest, racing to keep pace with the relentless flow from local elevators. The pressure is constant. Every hour counts when contracts are on the line and storage bins are already full. But the system does not always run smoothly. Congestion at key yards in places like Chicago or Kansas City can trigger delays of 48 to 72 hours, forcing managers to reshuffle schedules and reroute trains. A single stalled unit train can tie up thousands of tons, leaving elevators backed up and trucks idling in line. For rail logistics leads, it is a high-stakes balancing act. Keep the grain moving or risk a chain reaction that echoes all the way back to the farm. Towboats line up at river terminals as soon as the grain arrives, ready to push long strings of hopper barges south. Each barge carries up to 1,800 tons, enough to fill nearly 70 semi-trucks. A single tow can haul 15 barges at once, moving 22,500 tons in one trip. On a normal day, these flotillas handle about 60% of all United States grain bound for export, making the Mississippi the backbone of the system. But the river does not always cooperate. Draft restrictions triggered by low water can force captains to cut loads by a third or more. That means more trips, higher costs, and tighter schedules. Veteran towboat operators watch water levels and weather reports as closely as their GPS screens, knowing a sudden drop can strand millions of dollars worth of grain upstream. Every hour of delay at a lock or shallow stretch threatens to ripple all the way to Gulf ports, where ships and buyers are waiting. At the mouth of the Mississippi, the grain enters a world ruled by scale and speed. Gulf Coast export terminals, some handling more than 100 million metric tons a year, keep the global supply chain moving with clockwork precision. Here, the terminal manager's phone rarely stops ringing. Shipments arrive in waves, barges from the river and trains from the interior, each carrying grain already sold on contract to buyers in China, Mexico, or Japan. But not every load gets equal treatment. Confidential agreements with major exporters like Cargill and ADM grant priority access to the docks, letting their vessels jump the queue when time is tight. At the busiest berths, high-capacity shiploaders move grain at rates surpassing 10,000 tons per hour, filling ocean freighters in a matter of hours. Managers track a shifting lineup of vessels, juggling contract deadlines and weather delays. The stakes are measured in millions of dollars for every day a ship waits. As the last checks clear and holds are sealed, the grain is finally poised for its ocean voyage, its fate determined as much by berth assignments and contract privilege as by the harvest itself. In China, the arrival of U.S. soybeans signals the start of another cycle in the world's largest hog industry. Feed mill managers in Shandong province track vessel schedules closely, knowing a delay can ripple through thousands of farms, In Mexico, yellow corn from the Gulf is ground into masa by morning, forming the backbone of tortillas eaten by millions every day. Shortages here mean higher prices at the market and protests in city streets. In Japan, food security officials inspect U.S. corn shipments for quality, stockpiling reserves to buffer against global shocks. Each destination turns American grain into something essential, whether feed, food, or insurance against uncertainty. Trade policy doesn't just set prices, it rewrites the map overnight. When the United States and China signed the Phase 1 agreement in 2020, soy shipments surged, rerouting millions of tons through Gulf terminals almost instantly. But that same year, a drought dropped the Mississippi to near-record lows. Barges sat half-loaded, stranding over 2 million tons upstream. A trade policy analyst warns that every deal or disaster exposes how much value slips away when a single link fails. Every shipment ties America's harvest to global stability. As supply chains stretch and risks grow, the world's dinner tables depend on what happens next in these fields and ports.